Let me just give you a brief background, and I'm going to skate through this pretty quickly, so catch what you can catch. And thankfully, Brandon has been uploading our videos on YouTube, so you can kind of catch up with where we are. If you go to YouTube and type in either I Am Joseph or Pastor Johnny Peterson, I don't know what other taglines.
Abundant Life Worship Center.
Abundant Life Worship Center. Amen. And you'll be able to follow some of the messages that we've done in this series. I started about 5 or 6 weeks ago teaching on this message, on this series called I Am Joseph. And in this series, my goal was to juxtapose or compare and contrast the life of Joseph, the trials and the triumphs that Joseph experienced, to the trials and the triumphs that we experience in our own lives today. And in this particular passage of scripture from Genesis 37, we see that Joseph comes from a dysfunctional family. How many of you come from a little bit of dysfunction? Amen. He comes from a dysfunctional family where his dad had 2 wives, and not only did he have 2 wives, he had 2 wives maids. Amen. And out of those 4 women, he had 12 children, and of those 12 children, Joseph is the 11th. He's the 11th born son, but he's the favored son. He's the favored son because Joseph was born to Jacob out of Rachel, who Jacob loved. Amen. It's a trip when the birthright is just completely overlooked on your firstborn son because he came from a woman that you really didn't love. Amen. I don't know what your situations or your circumstances may be, or how you may have grown up, but don't let your family dysfunction determine your destiny or where you're going to end up in life. Amen. So Joseph was favored by Jacob. He was favored by God. He was given these 2 dreams. One was an agricultural dream, and the other was a celestial dream. 2 dreams, remember that. And in both of these dreams, he shared that he was going to rule over his other siblings. Now, his brothers already hated him because he was favored. Now he's spitting out this information about him ruling over them, and he's the 11th born son. He's next to the baby. How in the world are you going to rule over us? They're upset. They're angry. They hate him, or as I said in the beginning, they hated on him. You know, that's 21st century talk. They hated on him, and because he was favored, they plotted to kill him. We saw in Genesis 39 how Jacob sent Joseph out into the fields to find his brothers, and his brothers avoided him, and when he finally caught up with them, they plotted to kill him. And I talked about how the story of Joseph is a type and shadow of the story of Jesus Christ. You see, Jacob sent Joseph to find his brothers, and his brothers ultimately plotted to kill him. They threw him in the pit, but he got up. Amen. Jesus was sent to earth by God. He was sent by God by his Father to find his brothers and his sisters who ultimately rejected him. They nailed him to a cross. They put him in a borrowed tomb. But he didn't stay there. He got up. Amen. In your life, you've been through some situations and some circumstances that felt like a pit situation. But because you're sitting here today, you got up. Amen. And just like you got up, just like Joseph and Jesus got up, we have the ability to get up out of our pit situation. So from the pit, Joseph went to Potiphar's house. He was found by the Midianites in the pits and sold from the Midianites to Potiphar. Sold to Potiphar in Egypt. And Potiphar was basically second in command to Pharaoh. So he had he had a large estate. He was rich for all intents and purposes. And because of the favor on Joseph's life, he gave Joseph free reign to his entire estate. Everything was, there was one limitation, and that was his wife. That was his wife. And his wife, who we determined over the last few weeks was, excuse me if this embarrasses you or offends you in any way, but she was nasty. Amen. She was nasty because she wanted to sleep with She wanted to sleep with Joseph, amen. She tried to seduce him, call him to her bed, to sleep with her. We don't know why. We don't know if Potiphar wasn't handling his business, or if he wasn't, if he just, was gone all the time doing business and all of that. We don't know what the situation is, but we do know that she tried to seduce this man who was not her husband. But Joseph, somebody say, but Joseph.
But Joseph.
But Joseph was a godly man. Joseph was a guy who really loved God and was very loyal to his master. So he would not, even though the temptation was set before him, even though men of today tend to fall very quickly into these types of situations, or they fall to these temptations very easily. Joseph stood strong because he knew what God had placed on him. He knew that he had the favor of God in his life. Amen. And because he had that favor, and because he loved God, and because he was loyal to his master Potiphar, he would not sleep with his wife. And from his obedience, from his loyalty, from his godly character, he landed in jail. Amen. But not only did he land in jail, but he was placed in charge of all the prison. I'm just walking through, I'm walking you through, just kind of give you a background of where we've been. We've really looked at this text not narratively, but more didactically, more in a teaching manner, where we've gone pretty much line by line, pulling out bits and pieces, nuggets that we can use here in the 21st century to apply to our lives and live a life that is pleasing unto God. So last week I preached a message called Locked Up But Not Locked Out. And Joseph found himself locked up in a prison. And because he was in this prison, because of the favor on his life while he was in this prison, the warden gave him complete control of all the other prisoners in the prison. So he had free reign even in jail. How many of you know when you've got the favor of God in your life, it's not only transferable, but it's also portable and contagious? Amen. Amen. You have to read the text to understand what I mean by portable and transferable and contagious. Everywhere Joseph went, favor was with him. And everywhere he went, the people who he encountered were blessed because of the favor that was on his life. So it was contagious. How many of you want contagious favor? You need to hook up with somebody, a ministry, a pastor, a person that God has favored, and hook up with them, not trying to get the favor, but to be around the favor. Amen. When you're around the favor, favor is contagious. Amen. Amen. We can give you a testimony right from the video table, but we're not going to go there this morning. Amen. Amen. All right, so that fast forwards us to today. Okay, while Joseph was in the prison, he interpreted a dream for the chief cupbearer and the chief baker. He told the chief cupbearer that his dream represented 3 days, and that Pharaoh was going to release him in 3 days. And not only was he going to release him, but he was going to restore him back to his rightful position, back to the chief cupbearer position. And Joseph told the cupbearer before he was released from prison, listen, don't forget about me when you get back up to Pharaoh's house. Tell him about your boy, because I'm in here and I'm not supposed to be, because I didn't do anything wrong. Right? And he also interpreted the baker's dream, but the baker's dream was similar. His was 3 days as well, and he was going to be released in 3 days, but he wasn't going back to his rightful position. He was getting ready to be hung and beheaded, and the birds, the fowl of the air was going to eat his body. Amen. So one thing we see about Joseph, one thing we understand about Joseph is he's not just going to say something to get a feeling. He's not going to say something to put you in an emotional state of ease. He's going to speak the truth of what God placed on the inside of him. And because he speaks the truth, God continues to favor him. So here it is. We move on to chapter 41, and 2 full years have passed. Now we discovered that on last week some time passed, right? says some time passed, and we don't know really how long that is. Some theologians say that Joseph spent anywhere from 7 to 14 years in prison. But here we see in verse 40, in chapter 1 of in verse 1 of chapter 41, that 2 full years had passed from that sometime. Right? So sometime for you and sometime for me might be different. I shared my testimony on last week how I was locked up on Labor Day weekend I was locked up for assault. My wife told me I need to correct myself. I was arrested for assault, right? But the story went, somebody was breaking in my car. They hit me. I chased them down. I beat them up. Somebody saw me beating them up. The police came, didn't take my side of the story, put me in Lee County holding facility for 3 days. 3 days. One for the father, Friday night, Saturday night, Sunday night, and 4 days, and Monday night. Amen. 4 nights I was in Lee County Correctional Facilities in Alabama, of all places. Amen. And I just came from there last night. Somebody said when I rode through Lee County, I did 65 because that's the speed limit in Lee County. And I put it on cruise control.